Hi everyone, so this video is going to go through a workout on our core sequence here from our seated position, talking through how to properly brace the core, and again just try and do what you can on this one here. I'll give you progressions and regressions to make it harder and easier. So we're just going to start off on our seated position. Legs are going to go out nice and straight. Again, if you have tight hamstrings and can't keep the legs straight, they can be slightly bent, or you can open the hips and have the legs fall out, whatever you find more comfortable. The legs are just there for the counterbalance. They help with our core sequence. So we start off with the rollbacks on this one here. So our arms are going to come out of that counterbalance, taking a nice deep breath in. From here then I'm going to try and brace the core. So imagine someone's about to tap you in the stomach and feel that core tighten. I'm trying to hold that tightness as you slowly bring that lower back down. And then what I'm trying to do then is squeeze the core muscles. So I'm trying to bring my rib cage and hip bones together a wee bit to squeeze on the rise. So brace the core as I come down, and I'm trying to control that descent as best I can, trying to gently get the lower back on the mat and squeeze the core then on the rise. Arms right for that counterbalance. Again, to make it easier, just don't go back as far. The further you go back, the harder it's going to be to get back up. So we start off with our sequence now, taking a nice deep breath in, bracing that core. And then coming back when we're ready, trying to squeeze in on the rise to reset. You can take a recovery at the top if you need, but if not, we're going to flow into the second one. Bracing the core, coming back, squeezing the core on the way up. Controlling that descent as best we can. So trying to go slow and controlled on the way down, trying to squeeze the core on the way up again. Trying to focus on the core, bracing it. Squeeze it on the way up. Don't go back as far to make it a little bit easier. So you can go shallow here and just slowly build yourself into it. A couple more here. Bracing the core. Squeeze on the rise. Bracing the core. Squeeze on the rise. Well done. So from here now we're going to just move ourselves into a wee bit of a hold position in that lower phase. We're going to just come down, hold this position, and then I'm going to try and work through the hand position. Then I'm going to squeeze the core as the hands rise, recover as I come back. And again, the further we lean back, the harder it's going to be. The more you raise your hands, especially coming up over the head, that's going to make this a little more difficult as well. So the hand rise doesn't have to be as much, and the decline doesn't have to be as much as well. So if we're ready, we're bracing the core, sitting back where we think we can hold comfortably. Take a breath in, brace and squeeze the core as we lift the hands up, float the hands back down. So we're trying to hold that core nice and tense on this position as we just move the hands up and down. So again, we're trying small sips of air, very small sips of air in and out, allows us to still maintain the core position. Squeezing the core on the lift, coming back down. Trying to squeeze on the lift, trying to focus more on the front of the core muscles, don't let the lower back take all the pressure. Brace the core, come back down, we'll do two more here. Brace the core, come back down, brace that core, and come back down, recover. Bring the body back up, let the arms recover, let the core recover. So again, we bring ourselves back down, we're going to go into our leg lift pulses to work a wee bit into the hip flexor muscle series. Same position, bracing the core in that hold. The further we go back, the harder it is. And then we're going to lift the leg into two sequences each side. So 6 pulses on the right, 6 pulses on the left, 6 pulses on the right, 6 pulses on the left. And you can take a break if you need and come back in. So reset the body. We're just going to go back into that lower position, holding that position. So work through my right leg now for 6 pulses. And feel that hip flexor muscle series opening up. Working. From there then we're flowing over to the left side for 6. Holding that core again, an isometric hold. From there we're back into your right if we can, or we can take a break if that feels too much. A couple more, and then back to our left, we hold this position. And from there we come back up and recover. Good. So we're moving that sequence now into the bent leg series to make it a little bit more challenging. Our legs is going to come in. So again, the further we bring in the legs, the harder it's going to be. You can slightly bend the knees, keep them out if you want. Allow the legs to have some counterbalance, or you can tuck them in a little bit further. But again, we're going to start off with our rollbacks and roll-ups in the sequence. So again, brace the core, coming back, squeeze the core, as we come back, and the further we go back, the harder it's going to be like last time. So if we're ready, nice deep breath in, brace that core. We bring ourselves back. I'm squeezing the core as we come back up. Brace the core on the way back. Squeeze the core on the right. Brace, coming back. Squeeze on that lift. Control as best we can on the way back. So again, mine is going to split tapping in the stomach, holding that brace, and then trying to squeeze a little bit deeper into the core to help me get myself back up. You can go back as far as you can comfortably, but still be able to get back up with the feet staying on the mat for the first breath. A couple more here. Coming back, squeeze as we come back in. Last one, coming back, squeeze as we come back in. Recover for a second or two at the top. Well done. So same position again. We're going to go back into a hold, and we're going to try and go into a single leg lift. So into that brace position, extend the leg out, squeeze back down, alternating through the legs. Again, the further we sit back, the harder it's going to be on the core. So you can judge that by looking back. Focusing, just trying to keep that core nice and braced, squeezing as we extend the leg out. So if we're ready in that position, leaning back, holding, brace the core on the rise, recover coming back in. Brace the core on the rise, recover coming back in. Hands are there for that counter balance to help. Try to squeeze the core muscles nice and tight as best we can as we extend the leg out. Again, you'll feel this a little bit in the hip flexor muscles as well on the top of the hip as we work through that extended series. Sitting back up a little bit further will make it a little bit easier if we need. A little bit further back to make it harder. A couple more each side. Bracing that core to lift, back in. Bracing the core to lift, back in. From there we're back up and recover for a couple of seconds at the top. Well done. Last one's this series, and I'm just going to make this a little bit harder if I can. We're going to try and do the 2 legs going out if you feel confident enough to try. If not, stick to the single leg lift again for another series that we just did there now. But this one here is trying to lift the 2 legs out and the arms going out with it. So it's a little bit harder. Again, it depends where your core is. Again, the further we sit back, the harder it is. So, last one here, we're coming out again in that seated position. We're trying to squeeze the core as the double leg comes up. Recover as we come back in. Again, you can recover in between each one of these if you want for a second. Squeeze the core nice and tight as you go out. Recover coming back in. So we're trying to brace the core, keep the balance, keep that shape. Recover coming back in. Single leg if that feels too much, and alternate through. Squeeze as we lift. Recover coming back in. So I'm trying to brace the core, out, cover on the way back in. 2 more here if we can. Brace the core, out, cover, coming back in. Brace the core on the lift, and recover, coming back up, and recover for a second one. So here we're just going to do a little bit of stretching now just to recover the body. So we bring yourselves around into the prone position, just to stretch out that core. So we're lying on the mat with the core. We're going to use 2 hands is to gently peel the upper body off the mat, lengthening the core in the front, and just feel that stretch in the front of the body to stretch out. If you find a lot of pressure in the lower back here, you squeeze your glute muscles together, take the tension away from the back, or we can drop the hips down a little bit lower to the ground. We're trying to focus on lengthening the front of the body, just to stretch out the core muscles for a couple of seconds. From here then coming down, so you bring yourselves up in the chest pose, so they sit back in the hips, arms lengthened, so they stretch and cover those shoulder muscles, and the back for a second, the lower back. From there then gently sit back out, and that is our core sequence complete.